This is part 7 of a 7-part series on continuing the conversation about the proposed rewrite of Article 2 of the Unitarian Universalist Bylaws. In part 7, we will summarize all of the hard conversations about this proposal that need to happen. But first, we need to acknowledge why this is so hard.
I hate conflict. Saying no is hard. The pressure to go along, to get along, is intense. Some people really want this. If we say no, won't that make things worse?
We hear you. We aren't going to sugarcoat this. Standing up for what you believe is sometimes hard. But at the same time, we are caretakers of this religion.
We hope to hear every voice. Try to resist just deferring to what other people think. Every voice matters. That's what makes you unique.
At General Assembly last June, the Commission was very clear. That preliminary vote was not to adopt the new Article 2, but rather to continue to study it. Our leaders fully recognized that in our congregation some of these conversations are hard. But delegate after delegate had the same message. They were voting yes to keep the conversation going. We need to continue to discuss the proposed change to the purpose of the UUA, which removes the primary purpose of serving the needs of its member congregations. Should the UUA play a different role in Unitarian Universalism? We need to discuss what would happen if the explicit protection against infringing on individual freedom of belief is removed. In fact, we need to discuss the whole theme of the dismantling of the freedoms of the individual, putting greater emphasis on the collective. We need to study what the impact of dictates implied by the new covenants would be. Our dictates are adding tests we have to pass, the way to build beloved community. We need to continue the discussion about how accountability would work. This is intended to be real accountability. Who would we be accountable to? By what criteria will we be judged? What are the consequences of being judged to not be doing the work of living our shared values? We need to discuss whether we want to add verbose value statements to replace the concise principles. We need to discuss whether we want to drop the list of specific sources of inspiration. We need to work on getting clear definitions of the many new ambiguous words and phrases. We should not commit to being accountable for words and phrases we don't all define the same way. The delegates said that, overall, it's worth giving it another year of discussion. So, let's have those discussions about these questions, and more. We need to look at the big picture with regard to the proposed rewrite of Article 2. If the current principles get buried in the new verbose value statements, will people still easily see what makes you unique? Will people still feel included if the specific sources of inspiration are no longer listed? Are more covenants and accountability going to attract more people, or possibly repel people? Is prioritizing the collective over the individual liable to attract or repel people? Will the overall purpose of the transformation of the world through liberating love generate applause, or puzzlement, or perhaps outright alarm about our intentions? In other words, will UU still be attractive to existing members as well as to potential members? With membership declining for 4 straight years, this is an important consideration. Will UU still practice tolerance of a broad diversity of points of view? Will UU still be seen as prioritizing the freedoms of us as individuals? Will UU still try to build consensus based on reason and persuasion? Will UU still be committed to true democratic processes, not just voting? In other words, will UU still be a liberal religion? If the new covenants imply consequences, and accountability implies consequences, is this compatible with congregational autonomy? In other words, will congregations still set their own priorities after the new covenants and accountability are in place? And, finally, is this the transformation UU members want? Do we want UUs judging other UUs, even though that could be very divisive? Do we want to strongly emphasize the collective at the expense of individual autonomy? Do we want to centralize power in UU, to emphasize the collective over the individual congregations? Do we want UU to become a kind of a social justice activism organization with the agenda set for everybody by some governing body? I repeat, is this the transformation UU members want?
We know these are hard choices. One thing to realize is that it is perfectly acceptable to vote against this Article 2 rewrite. The last time changes were proposed, in 2009, they were voted down. That proposal did not even get 50% on the first ballot in 2009.
You can tell the UUA no to this rewrite. Tell them you want to continue the conversation after this vote. They can try again in a couple years. The last major change back in 1985 went through many iterations. It took about 7 years before they got it right.
In that 1985 revision, all of the extra time to develop consensus paid off. In the final vote, there was only one no vote.
Or maybe a big rewrite is not what is needed. In a couple of years, perhaps a couple of simple amendments could be proposed.
If everybody loves love, something saying that could be added. If we need a specific affirmation of anti-racism, that can be a separate amendment.
Whatever we do, we need to clearly understand what we are agreeing to. We are deciding the future of UU. We need to get this right.
Now it's our turn. Deciding what UU is going to be about is in our hands. It's a huge responsibility. Now is the time to continue the conversation. We want the next generation that is looking for a liberal religion to recognize UU as serving that role in our society. We want the next generation of seekers of truth and meaning to be able to find us. If you are looking for more information about the issues we just explored, visit the website savethe7principles.org. Let's be wise and prudent caretakers of this religion.